Last night, imagine someone deposits $10,000 into your savings account. You wake up tomorrow, same house, same job, same car. Nothing in your life has changed. So why do you suddenly feel different? Why do your problems seem smaller? Why do risks suddenly feel less terrifying? Why do so many people remember the first time they saw 5 digits in their bank account? Because your first $10,000 doesn't change what you own. It changes how safe you feel. And that changes almost everything. A few years ago, I remember looking at my bank account and seeing a number I'd never seen before. $10,031. For the first time in my life, I had more than $10,000 saved. Nothing happened. I didn't buy anything. I didn't quit my job. I didn't suddenly feel rich. But over the next few weeks, I realized something strange. The things that used to keep me awake at night didn't feel quite as scary anymore. My car breaking down, an unexpected bill, losing my job. For some reason, seeing 5 digits in my savings account changed the way I looked at my entire life. Why? Why does this number seem to affect people so much? Hi, I'm Jake. And I spend way too much time thinking about money, human behavior, and why certain financial milestones seem to change people more than others. If you've ever wondered why your first $10,000 feels different, or why some numbers seem to completely change your relationship with money, subscribe, because that's exactly what we explore here. And by the end of this video, I think you'll realize something surprising. Your first $10,000 isn't really about the money at all. It's about crossing an invisible line, and once you cross it, you rarely think about life the same way again. Before $10,000, most people live in what I call financial defense mode. Every decision becomes a calculation. Can I afford this? Can I afford that? Can I survive if something goes wrong? You may not even realize you're doing it because you've done it for so long. You walk into the grocery store and compare prices down to the dollar. You hesitate before filling up your gas tank. You hope nothing breaks. You pray nobody gets sick. You silently panic when your company starts talking about layoffs. Every unexpected expense feels like a threat. And here's the important part. This doesn't mean you're bad with money. It doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It means you're operating without margin. Imagine walking across a tightrope 20 feet above the ground. Now imagine walking across the exact same tightrope with a giant safety net underneath you. Did the rope change? No. Did you suddenly become a better tightrope walker? No. But your stress level changes dramatically. That's what your first $10,000 does. It creates a net. And the moment that net appears, your entire relationship with risk begins to change. You may finally ask for the raise you've been putting off. You may apply for the better job. You may take the certification you've been thinking about. You may start the side business you've talked yourself out of for years. Not because you're suddenly fearless, but because one mistake no longer feels fatal. And that leads to the first major transformation. You stop making decisions based on survival and start making decisions based on opportunity. That shift alone changes lives. But something even stranger happens. Your body changes. No, seriously. Financial stress isn't just something you feel. It's something you carry. Study after study has linked financial stress with higher cortisol levels, worse sleep, increased anxiety, and lower overall well-being. Think about the last time your check engine light came on. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that little orange light might as well be a fire alarm. Your mind immediately starts racing. How much will this cost? Can I afford it? Do I put it on a credit card? What bill do I skip? Who do I borrow money from? But with $10,000 in savings, you're still annoyed. You're still inconvenienced, but you're not panicked. And the difference between panic and annoyance may sound small. It isn't, because panic follows you everywhere. You bring it to work. You bring it into your relationships. You bring it to bed at night. You carry it into every financial decision you make. And when that constant low-level fear disappears, something incredible happens. You gain mental bandwidth. You sleep better. You think more clearly. You're more patient. You're more productive. You become more present. It's almost like your brain gets a portion of its energy back. But here's the crazy part. That still isn't the biggest benefit of having $10,000 saved. Because the biggest thing $10,000 buys you can't actually be purchased. It buys you options. And options quietly change everything. Think about someone who absolutely needs their next paycheck to survive. Can they leave a toxic job? Probably not. Can they take a chance on a new opportunity? Maybe not. Can they afford to wait for a better offer? Usually not. Now compare that to someone with a financial cushion. They can negotiate. They can walk away. They can take calculated risks. They can survive setbacks. They have choices. And choices are one of the most valuable assets money can buy. Because opportunities compound. One certification leads to a better job. One better job leads to higher income. Higher income leads to investing. Investing leads to freedom. The first domino often isn't $1 million. It's 10,000. But perhaps the most important change isn't your stress levels. And it isn't your options. It's your identity. Because most people misunderstand this milestone. They think the hard part is saving the money. It's not. The hard part is becoming the type of person who saves money. Saving your first $1,000 can feel impossible. Every sacrifice hurts. Every skipped purchase feels noticeable. Every dollar matters. But then something interesting happens. The habits begin to stick. You start thinking differently. You become more intentional. You delay gratification a little more easily. You start planning further ahead. You stop asking, what do I want right now? And start asking, what do I want my future to look like? Eventually, saving stops feeling like something you're forcing yourself to do. It simply becomes who you are. And that identity shift is worth more than the money itself. Because people who become savers rarely stop at $10,000. They keep going. Once you have a foundation, you begin seeing money differently. Instead of asking, can I survive this month? You start asking, how can I improve my future? Instead of worrying about groceries, you begin thinking about investing. Instead of fearing every expense, you start looking for opportunities. Instead of reacting to life, you start preparing for it. And here's something that might surprise you. The person with $10,000 saved is often closer to financial independence than someone making twice as much money with no savings. Because income doesn't build wealth. Keeping money does. You probably know someone who makes 6 figures and somehow always seems stressed. Nice car, expensive apartment, vacations, fancy dinners, no margin. Then you know someone making $40,000 or $50,000 who somehow seems calm. They're intentional. They have savings. They don't panic. The second person may have a smaller paycheck, but they possess something far more valuable. They have options. And perhaps that's why so many people remember the first time they saw 5 digits in their bank account. Because the money wasn't the best part. The peace was. The confidence was. The breathing room was. The realization that one mistake wouldn't destroy them. The realization that they could survive setbacks. The realization that their future no longer felt fragile. Your first $10,000 doesn't make you rich. It doesn't let you retire. It doesn't solve every problem. But it gives you something incredibly valuable. Time, margin, options, hope. Hope that your future can be different from your present. Hope that life doesn't have to feel like one long financial emergency. Because your first $10,000 isn't really about the money. It's about crossing an invisible line. The line between constant financial fear and financial stability. The line between surviving and beginning to build. The line between reacting to life and preparing for it. And once you cross that line, you rarely think about money the same way again. Because for the first time in a very long time, you can finally breathe.